And hello everyone, thank you for joining us for 15 minutes. I'm Andrew Huff. My guest today is the Assistant Presiding Judge for King County Superior Court, Judge Laura Inveen. Your Honor, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
A little bit about you. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Gig Harbor, Washington.
Went to UPS as an undergrad.
I did.
At what point did you decide that you wanted to take the plunge and go to law school?
I think I was about a junior in high school. And it was the 70s. There was a lot of social justice things going on. And I thought maybe I would have an opportunity to save the world.
And was there someone in your life that was sort of a motivator for you to go to law school, or was it just sort of what was going on in the world?
I think it was just what was going on in the world. Didn't know any lawyers, no lawyers in my family.
What were you like in high school? What did you do in high school?
Well,
I'm sensing you were one of the popular kids. Am I wrong?
I like to think that I got along with everyone. I like to think that I straddled a lot of worlds. I was a state finalist as the Betty Crocker Homemaker of Tomorrow.
Congratulations.
The same year that I was senior class revolutionary.
What's that?
You know, they vote most likely to succeed, most athletic. I was voted senior class revolutionary.
That's what I thought. You decided to go to University of Washington Law School. Mm-hmm. You began your legal career, I think, as a public defender. Is that correct?
I did.
Work at the public defender's office. How long did you do that for?
I did that for 4 years with one of the nonprofit public defender agencies that is no longer in existence.
At some point, you decided that you wanted to serve on the bench. Tell me about how your career started as a judge.
Well, I laugh and say that because I didn't stay in any one job for a particularly long period of time, that it actually really well suited me to be a judge, because you do have to be a master of a lot of things. As you mentioned, I was a public defender, so I was doing criminal defense work. And after about 4 years, I felt like I needed to branch out and learn some other aspects of the law. So I went to a firm that was primarily doing a lot of asbestos defense, and in need of someone that had litigation experience. Unfortunately, the asbestos client went bankrupt relatively soon, but the firm also did a lot of city attorney work. So they they contracted with various municipalities to do all of their city attorney work, their civil advising, but as well their criminal prosecution. So I did a lot of that. I did the criminal prosecution.
So you became a city prosecutor
for a while.
City prosecutor. Okay.
In addition to advising the cities in civil areas as well. And then I also did some defense litigation, civil defense litigation. So that variety allowed me a lot of experience. I started doing some mediation and arbitration occasionally, and I enjoyed that. And then I was just kind of for fun doing some pro tem work in the municipal court, Seattle Municipal Court, and enjoyed that. And a couple of vacancies came up. And at
now, pro tem work is you work as a substitute judge.
Right, kind of like a substitute teacher, you're a substitute judge.
At that point, did you realize this is something that I might want to do?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't really think that it was likely. I knew a lot of judges that I really admired, and I thought that the competition would be tough. But
tell me, what are some of the best traits that you need to be a successful judge? One has to be patience, knowledge of the law, obviously. What else?
Obviously, a good listener. You have to not only listen to be able to make a good decision, but you need to have the people that are in front of you feel confidence in the system and what's happening, so they need you to listen. As you said, patience. I think a sense of humor is hugely important. These aren't funny things, but yet you need to have a good attitude. You need to make people, both litigants and lawyers, feel comfortable in the courtroom. You need to work hard. You have to realize that it's not just the daytime sitting on the bench work, that there's a lot of work that you take home. In addition, there's the work that requires administrating the court. It doesn't run itself. Personnel issues arise, budget issues arise, a lot of different other aspects of running the court.
Now, you were instrumental in developing the juvenile drug court system, which is sort of a diversionary process to handle legal matters based on treatment. Tell me about that. What vision did you see that maybe we should start treating some of these young offenders differently when there's a drug problem involved?
Well, I'd like to take responsibility for having the vision, but others before me had the vision. I think when now retired Supreme Court Justice Bobby Bridge was my predecessor as the Chief Judge of the Juvenile Court, actually oversaw applying for a federal grant to implement the Juvenile Drug Court. So when she rotated out and I rotated in, it was in the, we had received the grant. So I was involved in the planning process and then ultimately the administration of it. But I certainly liked the vision, and I liked it so much that I once it was implemented and I oversaw it and worked on it, that when I rotated back to the adult system, I kept doing it for another year. So I oversaw it for about 6 years.
You know, for about a while there, maybe about 20 years ago, the members of the legislature were really taking a hard line on juvenile offenders. The 3 strikes, you're out, handling young offenders differently than maybe we do now. Would you say that was maybe a mistake in how we handled or dealt with young offenders some time ago? And have we changed for the better when it comes to handling these young offenders?
Well, I think there was, as you mentioned, whether it was 20 or so years ago, sort of that myth of the super predator juvenile. And there was this tendency that we should be locking folks up.
Right.
And you know, certainly there is a need and concern for public safety, and we always have to consider that. But young people, we have learned through science and the development and study of the brain that a person that does something at age 15 would not do the same thing at age 20 or age 25. And so to the extent we can intervene early and make sure that they're not receiving potential impacts that are going to negatively affect them for the rest of their life, I think that's a win for everybody, the court system as well as the public.
You're seeing more of these programs translate to the adult offenders as well, where we have adult drug court as well. Same goal, give people a chance who maybe are committing crimes based on their drug use, give them an opportunity to beat this habit and become contributing members of society.
Right. Well, ensuring some accountability for the public. So I also served as the adult drug court judge for several years, and that involves an intervention where the individual who has a drug-related crime, and there are certain that aren't eligible with certain kinds of violent background, for example. But if they're willing to get treatment, willing to participate in random drug testing so that they don't know when they're going to be tested, and come to court for regular reviews, whether they're doing well or not, to have an interaction with the court, that ultimately, as they succeed over a period of time, the charge will actually be dismissed, and presumably they will be a functioning member of society. They will have had to pay off their restitution. They will most often be employed or doing something productive.
Overall, has this program been successful, in your opinion?
Absolutely, very successful. I mean, there have been some periodic studies of that, and they had shown to reduce recidivism and really impact lives in a lot of positive ways that sometimes are hard to measure, such as getting kids back, paying taxes, things that aren't so immediately available.
You know, we're hearing more and more about this opioid epidemic, and we're seeing these prescription drugs being abused more and more. So certainly programs like a drug court, it seems that it's needed more than ever because of this epidemic that we're experiencing right now. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Some personal information about you. As you walked in the studio today, you made a comment that you just swam in Lake Washington this morning. I understand that's a regular activity for you. Is that correct?
It's a regular activity in the late spring through early fall. I'm
not sure how you do that, but
then it gets dark and even colder. But I work out with a group of friends, colleagues. We do triathlons a few times a summer, and so that's part of our training. Is that once a week we'll do an open water swim, a little over a mile.
Okay, I just heard you say you do triathlons a couple of times this summer. Okay, where do you do these triathlons at?
Various places. My kind of go-to triathlon is the Seafair Triathlon. That's in the home court, Seward Park, and along Lake Washington Boulevard. So that's a place I train anyway. And then I'll sometimes experiment with some other ones.
Have you always been pretty athletic, like to work out? Take care of yourself?
I like to think so. My father was an old jock. He ended up, his last job was athletic director of the Tacoma School District.
Okay.
And he was a football official and a basketball coach. And up until 6 weeks before he died, he was riding his bike. So I like to think I've followed in his footsteps.
You know, a lot of people might not know that you hobnob with a number of celebrities here in town.
Not sure about that.
One is our resident hip-hop artist, McLemore. I understand that you're good friends with him. Tell me about how that came about.
I would say that I'm friends with his folks. He actually grew up around the corner behind us. And he'll joke and say that he used to, what he calls ding-dong ditch our house, where he'd run up and knock on the door and run away.
Is that right?
So, yeah, he's a good North Capitol Hill, Seattle boy.
Yeah. Have you been involved in some activities with him over the years?
Well, he very graciously agreed to be our kind of highlight for our recent adult drug court anniversary a year or two back. So otherwise, he's a pretty busy guy. He's on a world tour right as we speak. So he's got a lot going on.
What's your favorite song from his album, The Heist?
Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot, and I've got it on my phone.
Thrift Shop, I'm sure you do.
You know, you can't not go with Thrift Shop. I think, and plus it's it's my favorite thrift shop, which actually is no more. They closed that one down.
That's right. You also are friends with Sherman Alexie, our famous poet, writer. Producer as well. Is that correct?
Again, he also helped, and that was through our relationship with the drug court, juvenile drug court. I very naively, many, many years ago, we had some Native American kids in the drug court, and I thought that Sherman would be really inspiring to them. Sherman had done a project with Superior Court judges, and so I wrote him a letter, kind of cold called him, had no idea that he had an agent, and he was like, got $5,000 a year, a lecture. And he, again, very graciously agreed to be a participant in our juvenile drug court program. And then since his wife and I have served on a nonprofit board together.
What other activities are you involved in when you're not on the bench? I know you're very active in the community in a lot of different areas.
Well, I'm on the board of trustees of on the DESC, Downtown Emergency Services Center, which is a nonprofit for chronically behavioral health crisis folks without housing that provides supportive services and housing for them. I'm also on the board of at Recovery Cafe, which is more of a day type program for individuals similarly situated and really provides a nurturing atmosphere for them. And I'm on the board of trustees of my alma mater, University of Puget Sound. So that keeps me busy. And then, of course, family.
Yeah. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine who's also a Superior Court judge and about the challenges that they face, the judges face. And he said there's the biggest challenges are funding, and funding for the court system. Would you agree?
Yes, we are in a real budget crisis right now. The whole county is, unfortunately, and the court has just been told that we need to come up with a target reduction of $5 million from our current operating budget, which already had been reduced many times over the past. So it's tough times.
Well, we appreciate you being here today and all the service that you provide to King County.
Thank you.
The Honorable Judge Laura Inveen, thank you for being with us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We hope you'll come back and join us for another 15 minutes. We'll see you soon.